Attention all fixed magazine owners out there, you're going to want to listen to this. If you're in New York State and possibly other states with assault weapons bans besides California, because theirs has already been, clarified more. But if you're in New York State specifically, listen up. So you might have already known this, but if you don't, there's the assault weapons ban. This is for people that already know a little bit about the assault weapons ban. I'll go over it briefly. You can't have assault weapons, and their definition of assault weapons is, it's arbitrary, of course, so it's certain features, right? So they said you can either go fixed magazine or featureless from what everyone knew. Right? But see, the problem is the definition is it's such a gray area that it can be left up to interpretation to the point where you might have to be the guinea pig of a court case for this all to get new legislation done. And you don't want to, I don't know if you want to go through that, but if you're a gun YouTuber and you have a lot of money and this is your bread and butter, this is what you do every day, I would probably send it to, fight for our freedom. But as if you're an everyday Joe that can't afford to do that or doesn't want to go through that, listen up, because if you have a fixed magazine AR platform rifle, it's a gray area. So I was just told by state police headquarters, because I was trying to call in regards to these new California things they're using to circumvent, not circumvent, but be able to have a firearm that functions, right? Because if you have a fixed magazine AR platform rifle, it's pretty much useless, right? If you get a double feed, whatever, because then you can't take the magazine out, right? So you got people that have side loaders, you got people that are doing all these things, but problem is, what I was told is that the whole entire thing is a gray area. So one shop, right? You have one shop that'll tell you, right, that you can use. So Kingpin says they're legal in New York, right? So Kingpin says they're legal, right? Where, now you can take out AR Maglock, and Kingpin says they're legal, where you're able, if you haven't seen it, it's where you're able to pop. It's a button that it replaces your rear takedown pin. So you know how you take the rear takedown pin and you're able to take down the rifle. It's not. So their whole semantics about it is, as soon as you take the rifle down, it only breaks the rifle down like a half an inch, and then it allows you to drop the magazine. As soon as you close the rifle back up, it causes it so you cannot detach the magazine, right? So that's the way California and some of these places are able to get away from this fixed magazine, because technically, when the firearm's functioning, it's a fixed magazine device. You're not able to remove the magazine. And then by taking the rear takedown pin out, and this device makes instead of having to pop the takedown pin, pull it out, pop it open, this device does everything in one go. It's this new engineering where it's a spring loaded, so all you got to do is tap on it, and it pops the spring out automatically, lifting up the action enough to disassemble the rifle to release the magazine. So, the New York State Police Safe Act hotline says that, the Cliverco new thing that the Kingpin Pal that they came out with, I talked to them on the phone, they looked it up, and he said that it's way too easy. He said it's way too easy to take down, because it's like, it pops it open just a little bit. He's like, it's not disassemble. But then I called him back and I went into it, because I'm like, wait a minute, like, even though it just popped open 10%, the firearm is still disassembled, right? Like, even if it doesn't seem disassembled, and that's the thing that I got into with him, because he's like, how is it disassembled? You put it back together in 5 seconds. But technically, even though you can put it back together in 5 seconds, it's still disassembled, just like a Glock. I can take a Glock down in 5 seconds. I'll show you an example of how quick I can take a Glock down. Look how quick you can disassemble it. Like that. And to put it back together, it goes on the same way. You see how quickly you're able to take down and disassemble a Glock? So I asked him, I was like, so they're picking on ARs, right? Because say you have a hunting style rifle that's fixed magazine, right? Let's say you have a hunting style rifle that's fixed magazine. Or let's say you have a, Mini 14 fixed magazine, or a hunting style rifle that's fixed magazine, and it's fixed in there, it cannot be taken out. And let's say it takes 20 minutes to take down that firearm because it's completely designed differently. It's designed differently, so you got to take all these screws out, you got to unscrew it. So now the firearm's disassembled. Now you're able to take the magazine out because you've gunsmithed the gun. So I'm like, hey, so they're pretty much picking on AR because AR is so cleverly designed, ingeniously designed, that to disassemble the firearm, there's 2 takedown pins. So just because it is so easy to disassemble the firearm with one takedown pin in the rear, that, oh, it's too easy to disassemble, so now they're going to consider it a assault weapon or a detachable magazine. How does that make sense? Who decides? I was like, who decides whether, where in the law does it say whether the firearm took 20 seconds to disassemble to take out a magazine, or whether the firearm took 10 minutes to disassemble? Like, what level of gunsmithing in the law requires to say, hey, it needs to take at least 10 minutes of gunsmithing to disassemble your firearm or to take out the magazine. It needs to require gunsmithing to take out the magazine. If the magazine is not gunsmithed out of there, it's not considered a fixed magazine. There's nothing in the law that says that. But then he explained on to something else that makes it a gray area, which I didn't realize, where he said the law says the ability to accept a detachable magazine. The ability to accept. So at one point, even if it was, he was saying even people that have it epoxied in there, people that have gone all the way over on it, he says the whole thing is a gray area. That's what he's telling me. So pretty much, and it makes sense. It makes sense. He's like, so pretty much you got to go featureless. Like, featureless is the way to go in New York State, because all of this Cliver Co., Kingpin Co., all of this stuff is considered, and that's even more gray area. The whole entire fixed magazine in general, he says, is a gray area. So one police department, a police officer could look at your fixed magazine rifle and still say that at one point had the ability to accept a detachable magazine. This AR platform rifle, right? This AR platform rifle is able to accept a detachable magazine, even though you did something to it to make it so right now I can't do it. At one point, it was able to take a detachable magazine, and I think that's complete BS. I'm taking his word for it, right? I'm taking his word for it. I believe him when he says that, but I think the law, I'm not saying what he said is BS. I'm saying the law in general, because these people over at that I call, they're good people. They always answer my questions. Just because it's all gray area stuff, right? He's pretty much saying that fixed magazine in general, because the law says the ability to take a detachable magazine, your whole AR platform is able to take a detachable magazine. So what they're really talking about in that law is, when they talk about fixed magazine, pretty much like M1 Garand type stuff. Like stuff that literally has an internal magazine where you're having to feed it with stripper clips, and not like, oh, because you fixed the magazine artificially with like these mag locks, with these epoxies, right? Where it's like you're not going to turn an M1 Garand into like a detachable magazine firearm, without like turning it into the M14, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know how they decide that, but they left the law vague. That's the whole point, and that's what I just realized, and that's why I called them back. And that's why I think the whole entire someone needs to challenge this. Someone needs to challenge this law ASAP, 100%. Because this is completely unconstitutional, and they're screwing everybody over. So what is the whole entire overall of that rant? There's probably thousands of people in New York State with fixed magazine setups, whether they're epoxied or whatever way that your gun shop interpreted that was legal. You're probably fine, right? You've had it for years now probably, and they still sell them to this day. But the problem is, what I was told is they're just not going after it, right? But each person's going to interpret it a different way. You have people interpreting it that it has to be completely epoxied in there, even though, there's nothing in the law that says there's a certain amount of gunsmithing required to be able to do it, or if disassembling the action. There's no specification. That's why they call it a gray area, because it just says the ability to accept a detachable magazine. And the person over at New York State Hotline said that overall, the AR was a platform that could take a detachable magazine, so it's a complete gray area. And he pretty much told me, until somebody gets arrested and goes through that court process, and there's new legislation made, like right now, there's not any definitive definition on that. I asked him, I was like, so what is the way to go? Is featureless the way to go? And he told me, like, featureless is the way to go if you're pursuing, wanting to get a semi-automatic rifle legally, obviously. In New York State's assault weapons ban is different from California, because California specifies, they say disassembly or breaking of the action of the firearm. New York State just says the ability to accept a detachable magazine. I think that's complete BS, because that just leaves thousands of people in gray waters where after this assault weapons ban was passed by this sexual offender, Cuomo, and then continued on by the same mafia, Hochul, the same elite, powered elite in the state. The SAFE Act not having stopped that shooting, that awful shooting in Buffalo, and then them having to pass additional, oh, now you can even buy a Ruger 10/22 when you're 18 years old to go hunting. And they completely redefine the Second Amendment. It's just this giant hunting. It's all just for hunting. We're gonna ban the sale of body armor to civilians. Now you can't have scary features on your semi-automatic rifles. You know, flash hiders and pistol grips and moving your stock up and down is what makes you so deadly, and it's just so horrible. And as soon as you take those features off the gun, it makes it a lot more safe. It's like a Nerf gun at that point. That's what they think. But no, no, no. They just try to inhibit you. They're trying to limit the numbers of new gun owners. They're trying to limit the numbers of these firearms. They don't want a well-regulated militia. And not saying that this is some militia thing, but it's clear what the Second Amendment says, right? So I don't think you have to go over that. Every person has the right to defend themselves with common use firearms, and the standard AR-15 is in common use. Millions of people have this firearm. It's in wide circulation. It's one of the most iconic firearms. Everybody knows about it. So it's hard to argue it's not in common use. And they purposely left this vague, in my opinion, to scare people into trying to get compliant, fixed magazine ARs, so you just don't get it at all. But then at the same time, they're not going after anybody with these, so then not new legislation's not formed, probably because they have an inkling in the back of their head that with the new Bruin decision, with the new historical context that they have to prove, the government has to prove that this ban fits within historical tradition. If this was brought back up to the Supreme Court, they would probably lose, considering a lot of these other cases where this is nothing new. But I just found it surprising because I had no clue. Like, I knew there was a lot of gray areas in the New York State gun law, but I thought fixed magazine was like just definitive, legal, like that's the most easy, basic way to go legal. But no, apparently that's, even if you're epoxied in, even if you, whatever you do, even if it's requiring gunsmithing, it's pretty much just still a gray area. Obviously, you're covering your bases there when you're epoxying and you're doing all these additional things, but it's still a gray area. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you have any additional information on that. This is the information that I've gathered over the years, and also from just recently speaking to the New York State Safe Act hotline, and that's what they told me. So if you enjoyed, hit the like, subscribe, follow along for more news, pro-Western civilization, pro-Second Amendment, behind New York lines. I'll see you on the next one.